everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the daily futures market outlook on our big six markets. That's going to be for the bund, gold, bonds, crude, the soybeans, and the S&P 500. And it's where we put together a plan of attack for tomorrow's price action as best we can with the information that the market is giving us. Now, we are first of the month, well, not the first of the month, but the first trading day of the month, and we kicked it off with some pretty good movement. I definitely can't argue with the overall volatility that we had today, and fingers crossed that keeps going because it is definitely sorely missed by a lot of traders, I would have to assume. Now, before we jump into trading, as always, this is going for tomorrow's trading. That's going to be for 4 of 17. Make sure to swing on over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down, and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's going to add you to our email list so that you'll know every single time one of these comes out. You'll never miss a beat. We talk about all kinds of stuff, not just the Daily Outlook, but also stocks and different statistics and things that are going on as well. So a really great newsletter to get your hands on. Along with that, at the bottom of the page, we have our blogs that we post every single day, and that's going to have a blog post of the market psychology, where we pick apart a market, one market every day, and we kind of learn as much as possible from that market. And then along with that, of course, our morning prep levels for all of our levels traders. If you haven't done so already, make sure to swing on over to the live trade room subscription and trial info. Sign up for a day trial and see what we're all about. If you really like it, you can always subscribe. And of course, for VIP membership, it comes as a full package where you get the live trade room included. Now, looking at the overall momentum, the bund, obviously aggressively bullish, right? They didn't spare any expense in the rally higher. The buyers were hyper aggressive. Now, that overall momentum that we have to the upside, we seem to have a little bit of a ceiling. 162.17 or so seems to be a brick wall. It's just not letting the market get through. And with that kind of in the way, we have to sort of play around with it in the sense of, you know, when are they going to want to break out of it? Now, we are very high. The movement up is extreme, right? We haven't really had much of a pullback. So honestly, that's what I would really like to see, is a pullback. I want to see the market pull back a little bit, give me a reason to be a buyer, preferably near the lows, so that I can get as good of a price as possible. Now, we are only a few ticks off of the highs, and after this opens back up again here in a couple minutes, it may just pop right above the top. But what I would really like to see is a pullback, not only to the major support between 162.08 and 05, but also at the bottom of the channel. You'll notice how they kind of come in contact with one another right around that area, and that would be a hot spot for what I would be looking for on the long side. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. I want to pull back, and I want it to be around an area of interest, and that would be that area of interest that I'd be looking for there on the bund. On gold, another really strong rally to the upside, and then a pause, a big drop in volatility. We put in a little bit of a top here at 55.8 and a low between 53.9 and 53.4, and that seems to be kind of the hot spot for buyers to want to buy into. We are running into a little bit of a wedge high, and that is kind of holding the market down a little bit. What I would really like to see here, given the overall movement, is simply just again, a better price, right? I don't want to be trading way up here. I want a pullback. And if we do have this bullish emphasis to the upside, obviously the buyers own the market. We bounced off of the top of the channel, which was resistance, acted as support. Everything is pointing to the upside, but preferably on a better price. So I would love to be a buyer between that 53.9 to 53.4 area, once again, just to shove the market back up and expecting resistance at that 55.8. On the bonds, beautiful rally to the upside. The buyers did not let off the gas pedal but once. Kind of disappointed. I had a long trade and I cut it too short after that rally higher, but, you know, c'est la vie. Beautiful move to the upside, and the buyers mean business. The buyers are looking to buy a pullback if possible, because nobody wants to buy way up here when you're starting to deal with last month's levels. Not a place that you want to really struggle around. So instead, buyers are going to wait for a pullback, and that came between 151.25 down to 151.21, and the buyers aggressively attacked that area and shot the market right back out. So with that aggression to the upside, I'm looking for the buyers to want to continue, maybe with one more pullback to retest before rallying back up to at least attempt the highs at 152.08, maybe a little bit through the top. We'll have to see. But overall, I want to be a buyer, but again, at a better price. On crude oil, a little bit more range bound. We started off the week pretty back and forth with a little bit of a weekend gap to the downside, and you'll notice that weekend gap, even though it wasn't that big and they actually came really close, it still is not filled, and that is a big clue. We have a weekend gap that is still open, and a lot of times those weekend gaps, the market has a really hard time getting away from it until those are filled. So that 50.85 area is going to be a huge magnet for the market, and we may be up there as early as tomorrow. It may be Thursday, but either way, it's expected that at some point this week we will fill that weekend gap at 50.85 because it almost always does. We are forming a little bit of a wedge here and finding quite a bottom as well. Lots of support down here, bunches of inventory from the buyers between 50.17 down to 50.12, and I would anticipate that to continue. So even if the sellers are able to break this to the downside, I have to assume that they're going to be buyers accumulating down there because nobody really wants to sell this far down. So a possible buying opportunity to shove the market up, and that may be what it takes to get that weekend gap. Otherwise, looking for selling pressure around that earlier area of support turned resistance at 50.52. But the buy side in the longer picture does look pretty good just to get that bigger target up at the weekend gap fill. Soybeans, I think saying bearish is an understatement. The bears on the soybeans were just decimating the market today. They did not let off. Any attempt from the buyers that tried to come in, it was immediately slapped right back down. Buyers tried to come in, slapped right back down. They did not let off. Now, one big thing that stands out here is that is the bottom of Friday's report that came out, and we're having a lot of difficulty right around that level. When they finally let loose, they did not look back. So because of that, I'm looking for a correction to sell into. I would love to see this bounce a little bit higher, maybe around that 942 half area, 942, and then look to sell it right back down for an attempted retest of the lows, at least down to around 938 or so. So definitely looking to be a seller on the soybeans, but preferably at a little bit of a better price rather than all the way at the bottom after a day like today. And then we've got the good old market, the S&P 500. Now, the S&P 500 had a very nice bearish move to start the day off, right? We opened up 930, just hammered to the downside, didn't let off the gas pedal. But then at the end of the day, we saw a little bit of a reversal, right? We caught a big rally higher. Likely sellers are still going to be selling into this thing like crazy, knowing that they have a high likelihood of this continuing back down to retest the lows. It failed, and then it broke out to the upside. And that's a big clue because that tells us a couple things. First of all, there are probably still sellers that are stuck in this market that haven't been able to get out. That means that they're trying to get out at break even. They're trying to get out at, wherever they're trying to get out at, but they're stuck in the move. And because of that, we know that it's probably going to be a little bit grindy on the way up because sellers are going to be selling into it, hoping to average their price up. But buyers also know that the sellers are stuck, and they may be slightly more aggressive. On any smaller pullback down to the bottom of support, bottom of earlier support there as well, 52 3/4, they could find buyers to rocket it right back up again. So based on the fact that sellers are stuck and buyers are very aggressive, I would love to see a pullback, especially if we can get one as low as 48.5 down to 46.5 in that area would be phenomenal. I'm not sure if we're able to get that amount of a pullback, but I'm definitely kind of anxious to see if they can give something like that, because that would be a nice bouncing area to pop the market right back up again. So overall, really good way to kick off the week, kick off the month, everything with high volatility, and man, I am a big fan of that. I love a good volatile market when we can get them going. It's just a bummer when they're not moving that fast. Now, we did end the day relatively slow, relatively range-bound. Everything kind of went quiet going into the afternoon session, and that could lead into tomorrow morning being a little bit more either volatile because everybody got their break in the overnight session, or it's going to be a continuation of what we're seeing right now where the market just kind of goes sideways and doesn't really do anything. So we've got a 50-50 scenario for tomorrow at the open. We'll have to play it by ear. In terms of news, we do have some news later tonight at, well, I guess tomorrow technically at 00:30, right? 12:30 at Eastern time in the morning. The RBA interest rate decision and the RBA rate statement for the Australian side of things. Out of the UK, we have 4:30 news Eastern time, of course, construction PMI. And then at 9:30 Eastern tomorrow, we have Draghi speaking, which is going to be a big one. But if you'll notice, I didn't say anything about the U.S., right? We don't have any big U.S. announcements tomorrow, which means that some of these kind of out-of-country announcements may be all it takes to kind of get things going again. So play it safe tomorrow. It could be a little bit of a whippy one with a lack of news, really slow to end the day today. Yeah, it might be kind of funky. So again, like we always say, make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll talk to y'all later.